everyone, and welcome back to this week's episode of Book Bestie. I am your host Megan. For this week we will be talking about my monthly wrap up and also this month's book club pick. So if you didn't know, we do have a book club on Discord. If you want to join, the link is in my Instagram bio, which is Megan_Jor, or at Book Bestie Pod on Instagram as well. You can also join through the description on YouTube. If you didn't know, we post videos of the podcast onto YouTube. So if you want to head over there, which is Megan Jor, I believe, it will be in the description and you can join through there. When I'm recording this, I just posted the poll for March's pick. So by the time this episode comes out, we will have March's book club pick. Since March is my birthday month, I decided to just kind of pick some of my favorite books. So we have obviously Shock and Horror, Magnolia Parks, Happy Place, Fine Print, and Mr. Wrong Number. So those four are what are currently being picked. We have just under a day left on the poll. So if you want to head over, you can see what March's book club pick is and you can start reading it with us. The book selected for February was actually Love and Other Words. I kind of thought it was a perfect book for obviously Valentine's Day and everything with February. So that is what I will be talking about later, but first we are going to get into my monthly wrap up. Now, as I didn't have the book club and I didn't do this kind of format for January, I'm going to include the books that I read in January. So far this year, I've read 7 books, I believe. I think it's 7. I don't know why I just say things. 7. There we go. I have read 7 books so far this year. I have been very busy with college and stuff, so I feel like doing it January and February is probably going to make it a bit of a longer episode. So I started off this year by reading Caught Up by Liz Tomford, I think is how you say her second name. I apologize if that is wrong, but that is the 3rd book in the Windy City series, and it's actually the highest rated on Goodreads, which I 100% agree with. But actually overall, I was looking at the 3 books in that series. So there's Mile High, The Right Move, and then Caught Up, and all of them are rated actually really highly. They're all above 4s, I think. Personally, I love the series. I think it's so good. But definitely Caught Up is my favorite so far. So Caught Up follows Kai, who is a single dad who plays for the Chicago's baseball team. He constantly hires and fires nannies to mind Max, his son. But his coach hires his own daughter, Miller, for the job, not allowing Kai to fire her. Miller is a high-profile chef who is in a bit of a creative rut and needs some time off to get back into the right headspace. Her and Max instantly click, and slowly Kai and Miller's relationship grows. Kai? Amazing. I loved him. Kai was incredible. I thought he was just so, I don't know, there was just something about him. I was like, oh my god, I love him. He was definitely my favorite guy in the series so far, 100%, no doubt. Their relationship in general was just really cute. Their banter was really cute. Just in general, I didn't think kids in books was something that I actually enjoyed, but reading this book and a book I'll actually get to later on, I'm obsessed with kids in books, especially this whole nanny vibe, minding their kids and stuff. I just think it's something about when a guy from you're reading from a guy's perspective and he's seeing someone with his kid. I just feel that always results in really cute quotes. Just from reading the series in general, I love Liz Tomford's writing. I find it so easy to get through, and that doesn't that's not a criticism in any way, shape, or form about how she writes or whatever. It's simply I am so engaged with all of her books when I read them that I don't want to put them down, so I find them so quick to get through because I don't want to stop at any point. This book was about 393 pages total. Now this is off Goodreads for the Kindle's edition, just by the way. I gave this book 4.5 stars because I was in love with it. I loved it so incredibly much. I feel that was a perfect length as well, the 393. I didn't feel at any points stuff was dragging or I was bored. So yeah, I just felt it really, really enjoyable. I feel that is a perfect length for a romance. There also wasn't any unnecessary random bullshit just to create a bit of a third act conflict kind of vibe. So overall it was a really, really strong note to start off the year. And 2 more books have actually been confirmed for the series 2. So I'm really excited for them as well. But yeah, so it was a great start to the year. The next book I moved on to was Love Redesigned by Lauren Asher. I did mention this in another episode of the podcast. I think it was in DNFs I gave another shot maybe. I briefly mentioned it because I DNF'd Lauren Asher's Dirty Air series. So I hadn't really read anything else by her. But then I picked up this book. It's the first book in the Lakefront Billionaires series. So Julian and Dahlia are childhood rivals. That's what it said everywhere I read, but that feels like a little extreme. They kind of just didn't get on. But their families are actually like really, really good friends. So they're always kind of forced together. Dahlia was engaged to a guy she hosted a home renovation show with. However, she returns home after the engagement ends. And Julian's mom actually asks him to help Dahlia kind of get her creative spark back because she's obviously like a little depressed, which I mean, fair, her engagement broke up. So the two start to renovate a historical house together. Kind of slight hints of a bit of unspoken attraction that's kind of always been there starts to bubble between the two. And obviously we get the book from there. Overall, I really love this book. I gave it 4 stars and I think it got a 4.13 on Goodreads. It's quite long. It's about 530 pages. Again, the Kindle edition that I got off Goodreads. I didn't feel it too bad. Like sometimes when a book is 530 something pages, you feel every page, especially in a romance. I just feel like sometimes they don't need to be that long. But overall, I don't think I felt it in any way, shape, or form. I did read it on my Kindle, so sometimes I tend not to notice too bad kind of what's going on or how long a book is. The best part about this book, honestly, was the communication between the two of them. Like they could just like sit down and have a conversation. And it sounds like such an easy ask, but with romance books, it never is. Like it's always some big dramatic blowout, and if they like just said like 2 sentences to each other, they'd be absolutely fine. And these two people actually like understand that, and they just have these conversations. So thank God for that, because that made the book that much more enjoyable. Not having to sit through stupid bullshit of just a miscommunication. So I'm actually really excited for the rest of the series. I know that the next book is confirmed to be Julian's brother Raphael and his kid's nanny Ellie. It's called Love Unwritten, and obviously like I'm on my bit of a nanny kick at the minute, so like I'm excited for that. I'm really looking forward to it. We kind of got snippets of them in Love Redesigned, but I am definitely really excited to read their own book. And also the cover was released for it. You're kidding. I swear to God, this is why I don't record the podcast on a Wednesday, because every single time I sit here, the bin men. Every time. Okay, so as I was saying before, I was rudely interrupted by the bin men. Yeah, I'm really excited for that next book. I'm excited for that series in general. I really enjoyed the Dreamland Billionaire series by Lauren Asher. So if this goes down that similar path, I'm really excited for it. The next book, we are into February. So I started off February by continuing on with the Chestnut Spring series. I read Powerless, which is the 3rd book in that series. It is Jasper and Sloane's book. Sloane, to be honest, like the family dynamic was like a little confusing. I think Sloane was a cousin to the boys, and then Jasper's like an adopted brother. Like he had like a not great family, and the boys kind of took him in. So they're not actually related, but there's a couple of jokes made in the book that they're related, but they're actually not. It's really odd. But they had a connection since like basically forever. They grew up together. However, he is a little older, so she always believed it was like a school ground crush kind of vibe that would never go anywhere. She gets engaged, and on her wedding day finds out her soon-to-be husband cheats. She begs Jasper to get her out of there. The two begin spending a lot of time together and begin to deal with a lot of the trauma they had growing up with their respective families. I love the Chestnut Spring series. I always have. I've had no complaints so far. I didn't love this book though. I gave it 3 stars. Like I still overall enjoyed being in the world. But I don't know, I just felt like the plot was like a little lacking, to be honest. Like it was very baseline. They got together very quickly, and were kind of fine pretty much after that. So I don't know, I feel like it was a little bit blah. Like again, as I mentioned, like I loved in general everything to do with it just because it was part of the Chestnut Spring series. It has 396 pages and a 4.12 on Goodreads. I mean, Elsie Silver's writing is incredible, you know, and these two characters are very complex people. But yeah, I don't know, it just didn't feel as engaging, I guess, as the rest of them did. That's just my opinion on it anyway. I loved the other books way more than I enjoyed this one, but you know, it is what it is. Overall, I like Jasper a lot. He is a hockey player, and he feels a lot of pressure on himself to kind of be the best. And Sloane is a ballerina who, you know, kind of comes from a very respected family, and the family expect a lot from her. So she overall feels a lot of pressure, and she slowly falls out of love with dancing because it's something that she's made to do instead of what she wants to do. So yeah, it's just about the two of them kind of gaining their own identities a little bit, which again was really good and I really enjoyed it. But I don't know, I just felt like there could have just been something that happened a little bit. Like, something did happen throughout with Jasper and it kind of made him a bit off, but I don't really want to bring it up because it's pretty spoilery. But yeah, I don't know. I regardless, like, I loved the series, so I did enjoy reading it and I enjoyed being in the world and the characters, but wasn't my favorite overall. But I then continued on to Reckless, which is the 4th book in the Chestnut Spring series, which has easily become my favorite. I still have Hopeless to read, which is the last one, so only time will tell if it stays there, but I feel like it's going to be a really hard one to beat. This book centers around Theo and Winter. Winter is Summer's sister from Flawless. We get kind of small snippets of her just based on Summer's story in Flawless. After her engagement falls apart with her soon-to-be husband, forced her sister into situations she didn't consent to, and watching Summer stand up to their family, she begins to question her own life and kind of wonder what path she's on. Winter ends up being around the friend group a lot more than ever, and Theo begins flirting. The two end up spending the night together before Theo leaves to commit to bull riding. Winter falls pregnant and tries to contact Theo, yet he never responds. Eventually, Theo returns home and moves in next door to Winter and finds out about their daughter. He is committed to making a co-parenting relationship work and getting to know her and her daughter and not miss anything else. Theo is the cutest little bundle of joy I've ever had in my life. I love him so much. He is easily my favorite guy in the book series. I love him so much. I loved their story. But to be honest, as much as I loved their relationship, which I did, I loved it so much. I loved their kid. I loved their dynamic. I love how Theo just like put on his big boy shoes and he just got into it, you know. My favorite part about this book personally was Winter. Winter goes through such a huge growth in this book, and to be honest, some of my favorite aspects of this book were her fixing and growing her relationship with her sister and herself. After having, oh my god, I forgot the daughter's name, Phoebe or something, I think it was something like that. She becomes very self-conscious, and although Theo helps her through that a lot and kind of makes her feel beautiful, it does take it within herself, and she kind of works on it a lot within herself. But yeah, honestly, like, that was my favorite part about the book, like getting those little like winter and summer scenes. I don't know, they were really sweet, and just seeing her kind of start to mend those relationships that had kind of been fucked from her from the get-go. So that honestly is what made that book so good to me. I gave it 4.5 stars. It got a 4.40 on Goodreads. It's about 466 pages. But to be honest, it didn't feel that long at all. Like, I got through it quite quickly, and it never really felt like I was kind of like, oh, this is still going. Elsie Silver's writing is so amazing, and I love her characters so much, so I don't feel like any book ever is going to feel too long from her. I've been slowly like putting off Hopeless because that means like the end of the Chestnut Spring series for me, and I'm just not mentally ready for that yet, so that's on the back burner right now. But yeah, overall, that is my favorite in the series. I will give you guys an update when I read Hopeless, to see if Reckless is still number 1. But yeah, it was definitely like my favorite, easy by far. The third book I read in February was The Fake Out by Stephanie Archer. It's the second book in the Vancouver Storm series. It got a 4.22 on Goodreads, and I personally gave it 3 stars. Hazel works with Vancouver Storm as their physio, and after her ex moves to the team and specifically requests her, claiming she's trying to get back with him, she recruits help from Rory Miller, a player who has done nothing but flirt with her since she got there. The pair begin to fake date. Hazel, however, has dreams of opening her own Yu-Gi-Oh studio. That's what I was about to say. I meant yoga studio, but her own yoga studio for body positivity after growing up around her mother. The two eventually start to blur the lines between what's fake and what's real. I loved the first book in this series. It was called Behind the Net. I loved the guy's point of view. I thought he was like the biggest sweetheart, so I was really excited to get into this book, and I didn't love it. Now, you tell me fake dating isn't something, and you bet your ass I'm there, and I'm probably going to be obsessed with it. But there was just something. Hazel was very preachy. Her mother struggled a lot with her image. I don't remember why. I think it was something to do with like a past job she had, and as she had grown a little older, she had kind of put on a little bit of weight or something. But like, oh my god, like every single phone call, every single conversation with her mother turned into Hazel like screaming at her mom and crying about how she can't love herself. And it was just, I don't know, it just felt like a little preachy and a little odd. I feel like it was a little out of place. And it kind of made those points of the book kind of a little bit uncomfortable for me. Like overall, like Hazel and Rory's relationship was really sweet. He helped her a lot kind of dealing with her ex and everything and whatever, but it was just, I don't know, I wasn't as obsessed with it as I was with Behind the Net. But I do want to continue on with the series. Like overall, I really enjoyed Stephanie Archer's writing. But yeah, it just kind of, I don't know, it just felt a little preachy at some points, and like it was a little bit like out of pocket half the time. Like her mom would like say something and she'd just start like yelling at her, and it could be like in front of people, and like it was in front of Rory, and I think it was like one of the first times he had really met her mom, and she was there like screaming at this woman about how she couldn't love herself, and it was like a little odd. But other than that, like it was all right. It was a little odd, but it was okay. Okay, so we're almost there. The fourth book I read was Collided, which is the second book in the Dirty Air series by Lauren Asher. This book is about Liam and Sophie. Sophie is the daughter of an F1 team and decides to go traveling with the team for a season. Having a father that is very protective and strict, she creates a list of things she's never done and wants to do over the summer. Liam Xander is on a rival F1 team and finds her list and offers to help her through it. The two are determined to keep feelings out of it. However, we wouldn't have a book if they did that. I talked about this book before. I think it was in that same episode, the DNFs, that I decided to give another shot. And I think I probably said that I gave this book 4 stars. I have since lowered this book to 3 stars. And it got a 3.84 on Goodreads. When I was reading it, I was loving it and I thought it was great and I was having a good time. And to be honest, that is most of the time how I rate books, is if I'm having a good time or not, which is probably not ideal. I should probably have like a little bit of a reason, but it's kind of based on vibes for me. It was definitely better than Throttled, so I think maybe that's why I gave it such a high rating at the start. I don't know, like after kind of sitting with it, I was like, it was a little weird. The writing was a little odd. It's like I'm still probably going to finish the series, to be honest, at this point. But I don't love it as much as I did when I read it. They were like a little weird. It was a little like pick me vibes at points. Like I think she wore like sneakers under her dress and he was like, wow, she's so different. And I was like, that's a little Wattpad, which is what Throttled gave me immensely. It was like a huge Wattpad energy, which again isn't a bad thing, but just not what I wanted in that moment. But yeah, I still liked it. I still thought it was okay. I'm just not as like big on it as I probably was when I, read it immediately. So, last and finally not least, we are at our book club pick for February, which was Love and Other Words by Christina Lauren. This book was childhood friends to lovers, kind of second chance. It was about Macy and Elliot. They meet after her and her father buy a weekend home per her mother's request after she passed. Macy's mother died of cancer and she left her husband, Macy's dad, a huge big list of kind of different events, I guess, that Macy will go through in her life and how her father can help her through them. So there was stuff like her first period, her first heartbreak, kind of stuff like that. And one of the ones on the list was that she wanted them to get a weekend home, because whenever Macy felt like life was getting too much, her dad could just whisk her away to this weekend home and have some time off. So that was one of the ones that her father really stuck to and committed to. So they bought a house, I think it was San Francisco where the house was. And they moved in next door to Elliot's family. Now, when they're viewing the house, Macy runs into Elliot upstairs in the closet in her dad's room. And her dad, she loves reading, so her dad was like, we're going to make the closet into like a reading closet, and her and Elliot bond over their mutual love of reading. And they constantly ask each other what their favorite word is for the day, which is really cute. I love them so much. Macy and Elliot for life. I love them so much. The two bond very, very quickly over their love of writing. Throughout the book, we kind of get two timelines. So we follow current day Macy, who is engaged to a guy who has a daughter. They haven't been together that long, and we kind of get the vibe she's talking to her friend Sabrina, that Sabrina's like a little bit hesitant about the relationship. She's known Sabrina since college, so they have a bit of a kind of longer standing relationship and stuff, and we just get the vibe that she's not 100% on board with it, just based on how quickly it was. And as Sabrina and Macy are out for coffee, they see Elliot for the first time, and Macy hasn't seen him in years. So that is our current day timeline, and then we get our past timeline, which is when we as the reader start to understand Macy and Elliot's relationship and start to see it grow. So when we're in the current day timeline, we begin to understand that some sort of falling out has happened, and these pair haven't spoken in years. We don't obviously know what that is yet, and slowly as we're getting through the past timeline, we eventually reach a bit of a conjoined point where they're talking about it in the current day and we are learning about it in the past as it's happening. I loved Elliot. I thought he was so cute. He just seemed like a big nerd, and it was honestly adorable. And he was so clearly head over heels still in love with Macy. The only thing I have with this book is that I felt really bad for their significant others. Like, at the time when they run into each other again in our current day timeline, Elliot is going out with a girl called Rachel. And after he sees Macy, he just goes home and breaks up with Rachel. Which is like a little funny, but also not funny at all. Like, it's kind of fucked, but it's like also like, oh my god, Jesus. And then Macy is engaged to Sean, who has a daughter, Phoebe, I think her name was. And they have a really weird relationship. Sean had an ex-fiance or ex-wife. I don't remember if they were married or not. But she got addicted to cocaine on a work trip. Which is just like a really like subtle sentence that is kind of thrown in there, and you're just kind of like, okay. Anyway, so she left both Sean and Phoebe together, and Macy and Sean got together, and they had only been together mere months. And Phoebe, I don't think she's like a young kid, but I think she's still young enough. She mentioned something about how they were going to get married, so literally one day Sean just goes, wanna? And Macy goes, okay. And that's how they're engaged. It wasn't like a big deal or anything. Their relationship is really weird. Like, we never really see them in any way, shape, or form kind of have any sort of connection that's not physical. And you kind of get the vibe off the two of them that once Macy meets Elliot again in our current timeline, you get the vibe that the two of them are clearly still in love with other people, but they're just together out of pure convenience. So when Macy and Sean end up breaking off their engagement and their relationship, like, it's so chill. Like, they're just like, yeah, that was fun while it lasted, you know, go us. And that's kind of it. I think Sean meets Elliot. I think they have a big picnic. It's like all of Macy's friends that Elliot has never met, because it was kind of like a big conflict in the past timeline that they had their little life together, but neither of them were involved in their life when Macy wasn't there on like weekends and summer holidays and stuff like that. So it was kind of like a big deal for Macy to introduce Elliot to all of her friends, and obviously Sean was there, and it creates like a little bit of like an awkward kind of yikes. But like, Sean's so chill and he just could give less of a shit if he tried, which is, I think, is kind of funny. I mean, Sean was just like, yeah, whatever, do whatever you gotta do. Yeah, I don't know, I really did enjoy this book. I find, to be honest, when I first found out the initial reason for their falling out, I was a little like, that's the reason we haven't talked for years. A little spoiler warning. They basically don't talk for years because Macy, it was New Year's Day or New Year's Eve, And Macy decided to drive to San Francisco because Elliot called her drunk and for the first time told her that he loved her and he wanted to marry her, and he had like a ring and everything. These are like kids, by the way. They're like teenagers, late teenagers. And Macy's kind of like, I don't want to have this conversation over the phone. Like, I'm going to come to you, whatever. He's at a party with a bunch of his friends. He's drunk. She gets to the party. She goes upstairs and Elliot is naked in bed with a girl called Emma, who has kind of been a little bit of a point of pain, I guess, for Macy throughout, because she finds out pretty early on, before her and Elliot are together in our past timeline, that they kissed a couple times and stuff. So yeah, she kind of runs off then. She goes back to the weekend house and her dad ends up coming to the house because she never called him and he was worried that she didn't make it to the house, obviously. So when I found out that, I thought that was the initial reason that they hadn't talked in years, and I was really mad. I was like, that is such a stupid reason. Like, I'm sorry, but if you loved each other that much, like, you could have talked, figured it out. But then we learn that the reason that Macy hasn't talked to Elliot at all is because Macy's dad is starting to drive them home and they get into a car accident where Macy's dad dies. So Macy's obviously going through her own shit and doesn't even think really to contact Elliot. She's kind of processing life as it's happening to her, and her aunt and uncle are basically just trying to get her to college. So Elliot doesn't even know that Macy's dad, Duncan, has passed, so he doesn't get in contact with her either. He tries a couple times, rings her a couple times, but she never answers, and he kind of slowly gives up after a while. But yeah, I don't know. I think they are very, very cute. I honestly loved them together. I thought they were so well suited. I loved Elliot's family and how like open armed they were to Macy. I thought that was really sweet. I hadn't really read any books with these kind of tropes of like childhood friends to lovers and second chance and stuff. I didn't think it was something that I was going to enjoy, but after reading this one, I'm definitely interested in reading some more. So if you have any recommendations, please let me know. You can leave them in the comments on the YouTube video, or again, join our book club on Discord and you can let me know there, because I'm dying to know more, because I really, really enjoyed this book. I gave this book 4 stars. And it got a 4.28 on Goodreads. It was 432 pages long. I read it on my Kindle, so in no way, shape, or form did it feel that long to me. I thought it was actually like not short, but like everything had a purpose. We didn't have much like kind of little filler random bits that I was kind of like, okay, we could have cut this. But yeah, overall, I'm really happy that we picked that as the book club pick. I really enjoyed it. I've only previously read one Christina Lauren book, which was The Soulmate Equation, and I did really like it. So I definitely want to read a bit more. I think I have the True Love Experiment at home, so I definitely want to read that. But yeah, overall, I think it was like a really good first book club pick. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, let me know in, again, the Discord. But yeah, that is it for today's episode. I hope you guys enjoyed this format. Definitely let me know. I'll probably be doing it at the end of each month, as obviously we wrap up. Again, if you'd like to join our book club, you can find the link in my Instagram bio at Megan_Jor or at BookBestiePod. Also have a TikTok as well. It's Megan_Jor. You can go follow me over there. And the visual versions of the podcast are on YouTube at Megan Jor. If you are watching, please like and subscribe and comment. It hugely helps the podcast. It means that YouTube kind of pushes it a little bit more. It sees more engagement with it. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please rate the podcast. It helps a whole bunch. It means that Spotify and Apple push the podcast more to more listeners. But yeah, thank you as always for listening. I will catch you guys next week. Bye.